Hi everyone, in this new video, we are going to see the FIDE World Cup final tiebreak game between Humpy and Divya Deshmukh. It was the second game of the tiebreaker, and in the game, Divya Deshmukh won the game and won the FIDE World Cup as the first female from the India, and it was a complete Indian clash in the final. Humpy versus Divya, and Divya won with black pieces. And now we are going to focus on the game. We will deeply analyze this game and we will see that how Divya won from a situation which was completely equal, but Konoru Hampi made a mistake and then Divya capitalized on it. So in this position, in this game, Divya was black. So we'll see from the black side. Humpy started the game with d4, d5, c4, e6, knight f3, knight f6, g3. All are well known opening theory. And in this situation, Divya went on to with d into c4, playing open Catalan, bishop g2, bishop before check, trying to mix up with Bogo Indian and the Catalan together, bishop d2, and this is all well known theory a5, queen c2, bishop into d2, knight b into d2, b5, and trying to hang on with the c4 pawn. Okay, now the main point is white is having the main line of obviously the a4. Also white can play with short castle, but the main point for black to play b5 is that black is asking question to this to white, that how are you going to take my c4 pawn. Okay, I'm going to hang on with the pawn with an extra pawn and playing some sort of kind of node boom structure. Okay, where black tries to push his queen side majority. Okay, trying to create some counter play. A4 main line, c6 only move, b3, cb3, knight b3. Okay, it seems that black is a pawn up, but it is all well-known opening theory. And here black went on to play with castle, bishop a6, knight c5. Basically, white is saying, okay, I'm playing on this light dark square which is weak on c5. Okay, yes, you might be a pawn up, but your pieces are not so active. Even if we just look at these pieces, this is kind of inactive and undeveloped. Whereas my bishop is a very powerful piece on this long diagonal on g2 to 8, and this knight on f6 is the only active piece it seems to be on the from the black side. On the other hand, white is having a very good play with rook d1, rook c1, maybe later on even after rook b1 also possible. Okay, Divya played b into a4, activating the bishop. Okay, which is the main line. Obviously, we'll not try to hang on with the pawn. We'll try to equalize the situation, clear the cloud from the queen side. Knight into a6, rook into a6, rook into a4, and at this moment you can see that black is a pawn up on a5. But it's very difficult for black to utilize that extra pawn. And if you just look at this thing, now black has to develop this knight, and the only better square is the d7, and then the c6 pawn is little bit weak, a5 is little bit weak. Usually in this kind of situation, what happens, that this white usually gets this a5 pawn after putting some sort of pressure on the a5 square, and this c5 pawn get exchanged with the d4 pawn. Okay, and then the things become completely equal with 4 pawns versus 4 pawns. So it becomes tends to a draw kind of situation. Knight b7, rook fa1. As I said that they're going to play queen b6. The way is trying to hang on with all the pawns. Knight d2 from Humpy, and again this has again played in few games. Okay, I can see in my database there are already 3 games in this line, and all are kind of grandmaster level games. It's not weak players have played this game, and well-known theory, rook f a8. Okay, e3, protecting the e3 pawn, d4 pawn, so that whenever we will take on a5, okay, my d4 pawn will be well protected. Knight d5 played by Humpy, sorry, Divya, and Humpy played knight to c4. And again in my database, I can see one game is there still. Knight c4. We are still following the footstep of, I think, Christy Joshua and Almedina Ortiz. Okay, it has been played in 2023 in Caribbean Championship uh, in the fourth round. So Queen c7, again the same point. Queen d2, we are main point is obviously to try to put more and more pressure and win this pawn. Okay, on a5, And then as I said that this pawn usually get exchanged with this thing. And now Divya diverted from the game. The previous game have happened with knight b4 and knight a5, rook a5, queen b4, rook a4, rook a4. And the situation was, as I said, once the c5 break will come, the situation will be completely equal. And but yeah, white tries to complicate a little bit, but the game was ended in a draw. Actually, we'll just look at this situation, and this is a very easy drawing hold. And if you look at this situation, that even without the pawn on c4, this game should be ended as a draw, because all the pawns are on the king side, and 3 versus 4, it should be ended as a draw. So Divya played here knight 5 b6. Divya was trying to exchange the knight. Knight into b6, queen into b6. He's still hanging on this a5 pawn. Somehow managed to keep this thing. But yes, now the c6 pawn cannot move forward because there is a rook on a8. Queen c3, trying to put more pressure on this square. Knight f6, rook c1, knight d5. Now the situation came. The point is, now Humpy gave up the bishop. Okay, that Humpy said, okay, I'm not going to give you any tempo. Okay, the knight is very strong on d5, and I'm going to give up this bishop. But now the point is, you cannot take with the c pawn. Then there is a queen 8, and this thing is not going to be good for black, because black pieces are extremely passive, white is extremely active in this kind of situation, and this is not going to work for black. So Divya took with the e pawn. Okay, not played, took with the c pawn and played with the e pawn. And now rook a c1, h6, creating a flight square for the king. King g2, everything seems that the position seems to be pretty much equal. Queen b5, h3, queen c3, sorry, h3, queen b6 again, rook 1 a2, and white is just hanging on with these weaknesses, c6 and a5, queen c7, queen c5, and just grabbing more space. Queen to a7, queen c3, queen b6. Again, they are not making any such progress. Okay, from this position. Rook b2, queen d8, rook a2, h5, h4. Okay, Dibba was just trying to create that if I can create some sort of h4, trying to complicate the situation. But yeah, the Humpy calmly played h4 and just fixing that pawn. G6, rook a1. Just they have just slowly improved their king side pawns. Okay, and even if the e5 pawn will fall apart, then the position will be ended as a draw. But queen b6, king g1, king g7, king g2, and you can see that the position is not improving that much, and they are just firmly rotating. And in this moment, Humpy tried the last shot. Okay, with e4. Okay, he said that, okay, I'm trying to complicate this thing. Probably the best try was queen c3, game, take the game for a draw. It was a rapid event, a rapid tiebreak, and bring the game into the blitz tiebreaker. But Humpy was too much desperate to win in the rapid part, so he played e4, d4. It was an inaccuracy. Again, you have to go with queen c3 and just keep the position simple. E4, d into e4, and now d5. Okay, Ampi was trying to complicate this thing. Again, rook e1 was the best option here, to simply grab this pawn and play for the equality. So after d5, now black is kind of better. Black played queen e5. That's a good move. He is not looking for a, probably Humpy overlooked this move on e5. So now white has played rook to d1, just keeping this pawn on d5, pawn on supported, and now they are ready, that hoping for cd5, and Divya actually played cd5, which was not a good move actually. The correct idea is to play rook d8 and again make another pin. This is kind of a cross pin situation where the c pawn is going to cannot take on c6, d pawn cannot take on c6, whereas again it cannot be pushed forward, and maybe rook d4 was the option, and black is going to dominate this game. So c d5 played rook into d5, and now suddenly white pieces are very active. Okay, whereas black pieces are quite passive. Queen e8 played by Divya, queen d4 check, king g8, rook e5. Again, this position is dynamically balanced. White is a pawn down, but white pieces are very active. queen c6, queen into e4, queen into e4, rook into e4, rook f6. Okay, the position seems to be equal. Again, this a5 pawn is going nowhere, and I can simply come forward and take this pawn. Rook a5 played, rook f5, gf5, and this should be a well-known drawn position. But later on, we'll see that where Humpy made the mistake. King f3, king g7, king f4, king g6, king e5, rook a6, king d5, f4. And now here the point was that you should take with the g pawn, okay, and play this game. But here I don't know that how Humpy played this kind of move. He was an experienced player, grandmaster, and he played rook into f4. Now this rook behind the pass pawn becomes very very powerful, and once black gets a4, this position is completely winning for black. Suddenly you cannot stop this pawn. Rook b4, a3. Maybe Humpy thought, okay, I will come and then block this situation, but king f5. Now the king is very very active. Come go. f3, a2, rook a1. Now the rook is kind of fixed. Cannot move this rook. Earlier, imagine this position with pawn on a5 and rook on a4. So that was a much better cutting off. Okay. Rather than this passive rook on a1. This rook cannot move even here in this moment. So rook a3, and black is pushing more and more and grabbing more space. King d4, f6, king d5, rook a4, king d6, rook a5, king e7, rook a6, king d7. And now black has just pushed the white king into the back rank, towards the back rank, where the king cannot go upside. And here king e5 played by Divya is saying that, okay, I'm just going to probably thrust this situation with f5, f4, okay, or maybe simply king d4, king here, and I'll grab everything, and this king is cut it off completely. So here white has played g4. White was trying to create counterplay, but it is completely losing position. Rook a7, king c6, and now king f4 again. Divya favors for basically uh, Humpy, that king d4 f4 was actually a blunder in this moment. Why it was a blunder? King f4. Okay, we'll see that after gh5. Now white has also created some sort of counterplay here at this moment, and after king f3, now h6 seems to be fine, but actually the correct move was to give up those two pawns, come quickly and take this pawn. Okay, king d5 was the actual correct move. Even if possible, I might play this and go with my king and take this pawn on a2, and this will be a completely drawn endgame. This pawn is going nowhere. This king will always come and capture this pawn. So h6, Humpy favors Divya with h6. Again, in that we can understand both were playing in the kind of time travel. Again, Divya favors for Humpy. Again, f5 was a bad move. King e4. It's very important to stop this king d5 idea. And then if pawn is just pushing forward. So f5, king d5. Now Humpy played king d5, f4. Okay. Now again, king e5 was very very important move. I'm threatening some sort of rook f1, or maybe I'm saying that, okay, you cannot go because h7 is coming, and h8. I'll give up this pawn and then I'll grab this pawn. But here Humpy played the last mistake in this game, and there was no chance for him. So h7 came and it was lost again after rook h7, rook into a2. I can understand that maybe Humpy thought this game would have been ended as a draw, that my king can is on d5, it can maybe block or protected this block this f4 pawn with the rook and the king, and maybe it will be a drawish rook pawn in game. But she was wrong. King g3 is the correct move and very good move. Actually, will not take the g4 pawn. It was, we are not in a hurry. Rook a8, rook into h4. Now it's just simply coming. Rook g8 check. Again rook g4. Again the better defense was obviously that bring the king to the defense. Rook g8, rook g4, rook f8, f3, and now this f pawn is rolling and this king is completely cutted off. There is no chance for Humpy now. King e5, f2, rook f7, And after here again, rook a4 and rook a1 is simply winning. Also, Humpy played Divya played simply king g2, and this game is completely lost. If one is coming, there is no way you can stop. And with this game, winning this game, Divya Deshmukh became the FIDE World Cup champion. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please comment it down below. If you want to see more game analysis, please let me know which game you want to see. And if you are new in my channel, kindly subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching.